All right, perfect. I'm just going to give it a refresh here and make sure I see us. Wonderful. We are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another live video from Boys Town. My name is Gabby. I am your host, and we are live today to talk to all of you about what it will take to help your child develop a confident mindset. And joined with Bridget and I from Common Sense Parenting, we go live every month together. We are honored to welcome a special guest, Allison, right here in the middle, author Allison Joy from the Boys Town Press. And we are going to be discussing her new book. So stay tuned to learn more about that, as well as several tips on helping your child develop a confident mindset. If you're watching live and you have any questions for our presenters as we go through our discussion, you can always leave them in the comment section of this video. And of course, if you're watching this later on, maybe over the next couple days, and you have a follow-up question, keep them coming in the comments and we can reach out to you directly, as well as keeping your eyes in those comments for several resources, including Allison's book and Common Sense Parenting class information from Bridget. Wonderful. Well, we'll start with introductions. Allison, I know I just said who you are, but tell us a little bit more about your background and what's it like being an author and about your new book too.
Okay, thank you so much for having me. First of all, I'm really excited to be here and be part of this conversation. Yes, as you said, I'm Allison. I'm an elementary school counselor, have been for 9 years, always at the same school, all 9 years at the same school. It's a small rural school. We have about 500-ish students, preschool through 5th grade, and I love that profession. And I love the age group and getting to help set some of those foundational skills for really things that they'll use throughout their entire life, like problem solving skills, goal setting, things like that. So really enjoy that. I'm also married and have 4 daughters, 11, 9, 7, and 4. So we stay busy. We're all actually in the same school this year. This will be the only year that we're in the same school because my oldest will go to junior high next year. So we've been having fun with that. And yes, my book came out in January. It's called My Magical Mindset, and it's about a little girl who has a big day, and she uses a lot of different coping skills as she works through some big feelings and some hard times. And I'm just so excited. It's been such a fun process. And coping skills is something I feel very passionately about because I do believe that they're just really powerful tools that we can use to help us through a lot of different things in our lives. So I'm really hopeful that parents and kids, I hope it inspires them to learn about coping skills, develop some coping skills, practice them so that they can use them every day as well.
Yeah. We talk a lot about coping skills here at Boys Town.
Yeah.
It'll be fun to weave this into our chat today. Definitely. Yeah. Great. Bridget, what about you for any of our new viewers?
Well, I'm super excited to talk about this topic on building confidence because a lot of the parents who come to our parenting classes ask this very question. How do you do that? And how do I do that when no one did it for me? In fact, they have a lot of self-doubt that they share in the class. So I'm so excited about this wonderful little book because sometimes parents learn a lot when they're reading those books to their
for
kids,
sure. Yeah.
Right? And so I'm hoping everybody that's out there that's listening will get Allison's book. It's super cute, and little Junebug character is just as sweet as she can be, but sending a very powerful message. So yeah. So I'm hoping all my parents out there listen up and learn something today about building kids' self-confidence.
Definitely. So we are going to go ahead and go into our discussion questions here. The first one is, what should parents focus on to help build confidence at different ages? So maybe starting with younger kids. Allison, how can My Magical Mindset help with that?
I think it helps kind of just ultimately, I think it's just being that person of support for them and just kind of supporting as they go through life and, go through everything that they experience. And I think cheering them on during setbacks as well and kind of maybe reframing that sometimes too. I think the book helps because, like we said, we're going to talk so much about coping skills, but it kind of, coping skills are critical, I think, for building confidence because we can really use them as stepping stones to help us through times when our confidence is taking a hit or when we're learning to build confidence. So I think maybe just laying that foundation as well. I think we as parents can model confidence, and educators as well model what it looks like, to help kids get an idea of what that looks like. We can tell them, but they're going to watch what we're doing and see how we do it. So helping them see that from us.
Yeah, I agree. I totally. Are you guys getting a lot of feedback on me?
I muted.
Okay. So I totally agree with Allison. Confidence building is a developmental process that shifts, right? As we grow our entire lives, right? So when children are very young, we're teaching them confidence and mastery skills, like being able to put on your own clothes and, take your plate from the table, or learning a social skill like following instructions. And when they're older, like when they're teenagers, we're probably going to focus more on their values or their independence or their ability to deal with peer pressure. So it shifts a little bit, but we still, at every age and stage, we create the space that's safe, that children can learn and grow and build that confidence.
What about in moments of doubt when children feel like they're doubting themselves? How do we build them back up? Allison, what would you say?
I would say first thing that I am thinking of is validating their feelings and their experiences and letting them know, like, valid, to feel that way, and that we've all gone through times when our confidence has taken a hit and we're feeling a little bit down.
Mhm.
And then I think, praising maybe the process over the final product and like kind of putting the emphasis on the actions instead of maybe the results at all times. So we're saying, I'm really proud of that you worked so hard, or I'm really proud that you spent this much time, or, put this into it. So kind of changing that mindset a little bit. And then also a growth mindset of just like, not yet, like we're not there yet, but look at what you've done so far, or look at how far you've come, things like that, so that it's not so much on the final result, but it's the growth and the experience and everything that they're doing.
Yeah, I totally agree. So many times as parents, we want to rescue our children, solve the problem, for our kids. But when we hear our children saying things like, I'm no good at this, or I can't do that, I want parents to remember, like Allison is saying, that you want to give some gentle encouragement without solving the problem for them or making them feel like their feelings aren't valid. Right? This is hard, and maybe you are struggling. So I would say to my son, "So wow, I see that you're having a hard time with that, and but you're really trying hard. That's really good." So the effort that he's making, and if he's like, "Well, it's not working. I can't do it." And I say, "So, well, have you ever had anything that you couldn't do in the past that was really hard for you?" "Well, yeah." Well, how did you feel then? And did you master it? Yeah, me too. I've had hard things too. So I try to, really make him feel like he's not alone. But I leave him with the problem. I don't take it away from him. When he's trying to learn to tie a shoe, I let him struggle. And when he was trying to learn other things, I let him struggle, but I was supportive. He knew I was present and I was his cheerleader.
I think that's really important what you said about not solving it for them. And I have found, I mean, that's hard to do. It is, but it's so important because I feel like sometimes that almost takes the confidence away,
Mhm.
because then they kind of learn to depend on you, or they're always looking to you, which sometimes we want, but a lot of times we want them to be able to have the confidence to solve the problems themselves, to work through things themselves.
And Allison, do you feel like in this day and age where everything's so instant, everything happens so instantly for all of us, that we want to solve things or get things done quicker than maybe the process time and the ability that we have, uh, to do those things on our own. Do you, you know, as a counselor for kids in school, do you feel like kids really sometimes want that instant, I want it now, how do we get it
Yeah.
now? And they
Yeah.
struggle with being able to
Yeah.
process through?
Yeah, definitely. And again, unfortunately, like then that takes away so much of the learning opportunity and so much of the growth. So yeah, I do. I feel like that's something else that they have to learn is it's not always immediate. Sometimes I really have to work for it, or sometimes it takes time before that plays out.
Yeah, I have to
Yeah.
teach parents to be silent, to be present but silent,
Yeah.
supportive and gentle and silent, which is not, you know, they want to talk
Yeah.
and let's solve it now because all of us are feeling that pressure to solve and do very quickly. So that is a struggle in and of itself, especially when it comes to building confidence, which is very gradual. It's very silent. It happens sometimes when you're not looking, right? And so definitely, well, I'm glad we're on the same cheerleading team in regards to
Mhm.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. And definitely through the struggle, of course, we always want to see our child overcome and succeed, but there are going to be those times where they are putting the work in, putting the grit in and struggling, and then things might not always turn in their favor, and everyone faces failure. So during those times, how do we not let our kids who are experiencing failure, whether it be in school, sports, etc., alter their confidence building skills? Allison?
I think with that, it's doing our best to reframe failure again instead of a bad thing as a good thing. I mean, that's how we learn. That's how we know what not to do. You know, cool, we could check that off the list. We'll try something else. So trying our best to reframe it. And then again, like I said earlier, maybe shifting our focus from the final product, like focusing on what did go well and what was right, but then also just changing that mindset of failure is not necessarily a bad thing at all. Failure can be really helpful in a lot of ways. It's kind of like a stepping stone to what we want to accomplish. So trying to look at it that way.
Yeah, my son had to take a really hard test. It was very difficult for to get a job, and he studied for the test, and he studied for the test, and he failed the test, you know. And he was real quiet after that, and we were quiet with him and very gentle with him, like giving him the space to breathe. And then when he was ready to talk to us about the failure that he experienced and to embrace that setback and to be okay that he learned something from that and for us to be silent and not try to fix it for him or to interrupt his thought process through that and giving him the time to think about it versus like, well, you should do this and now we can go back and I'll study with you. I didn't do any of those things. And I think when he did come back to talk to us about it, Allison, Gabby, he learned more from the failure. He learned that he was confident that he could go back and take that test and he was going to, and he did, and he passed. You know, so I think that, you know, giving kids space and grace and time is so big for all of us to be able to do so they're persistent. I find sometimes people give up. It's not the smarter person that makes the grade. It's the person who's persistently just keep trying. And sometimes, you know, he says, well, I want to give up. And I'm like, do you really want to give up? I'm okay if you give up on things you really want to give up on that are not for you, but don't give up on things that are for you just because they're hard, right? So it's knowing the difference and giving kids a space to decide for themselves.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. And I think that as parents, even though it's really hard, I think the earlier we could do that, the better, because then it is setting them up, you know, for later things that maybe mean more to them. I mean, that's debatable, but depending on what it is, but to know I can try again or I can keep going, you know, that this setback isn't the end of everything.
Yeah, I agree. So many parents come to the class and they're like, I wish I would have had this class 10 years ago when my kid was little. And I was like, well, it's never too late to start. You know, we all make mistakes. We're human beings. And when you can show through your modeling to your kid that you can change, that you can correct mistakes, then they're going to learn that that's why you coming to this class and learning some other ways to handle how you're interacting with them. So it's not too late. But yeah, it'd be great if we can start when they first come on the scene. We're like, I'm ready for you. So come on to the classes, get Allison's book, do whatever you can, talk to some other parents and learn some things that can help you. And so you won't feel defeated as a parent when you're struggling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And speaking of modeling, Bridget, we talked a little bit at the beginning on our kids are watching us. They're watching our confidence. So how can we model, positive self-talk and our confident behavior within ourselves to further influence our child's confidence, even on days where we as parents might not be feeling that confident? What do you think, Bridget?
Well, I think, like we've been saying here, parent self-talk has a big impact on children. They're like little sponges. Well, they're similar to little sponges. They're taking in what they're hearing and what they're seeing to develop their own internal voice, so to speak, right? And they might, because of what you're saying and what you're doing, develop this viewpoint of a I can't do, you know. And so when you're struggling with being able to communicate and you're finding yourself you're doing things that you don't want to do, you don't want to say, they might have been passed down to you like, I want to give up, I can't do this, life is hard, I should just give up. You stop yourself. I actually put my hand up and say, oh, let me stop myself, let me say that again. So it's okay when you find yourself that I've gotten into a negative speak, that you stop yourself. But things you can do with kids to try to put that in your routine, because if you've been negative and it's hard for you to change, you might have to have some conscious routines. So 3 times a day, I tell parents at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you can see your kids, and that's good to see your kids at meal times if you can. But to just have that point of connection, of positivity. And you can use things like our little, I don't know if you guys can see this here, but our little praise box that you can get online at our boystown.org site. And what will you do is the kids praise you for things, you praise your kids for things, you encourage them, you tried hard for their intent, for their independence. So you can praise them for their self-confidence and for them trying and failing, that you tried, you failed. Did you learn? Yeah, I learned. Good job. And so 3 times a day, I try to just listen to kids, hear their concerns, let them problem solve through things and be there for them. And while I'm there, I try to have that same kind of, I'm going to have a big day today. I'm going to be talking to Allison. Have a lot of things I need to study. So, I try to be that example and provide the space, the safe place for kids to speak to me on a consistent basis. You have to kind of make yourself do that. Do you think so too, Allison, that as parents, we have to consciously think ourselves into and not, just let it happen? I wish I could just let it happen all the time, but sometimes you have to work on that.
Yes, absolutely. And I love what you said about that sometimes, being conscious about it and making sure that we're self-aware also. Are we talking down about ourselves, or, what things are we saying when things don't go so well? But then also sometimes we have to go back and say, well, wait a minute, I didn't say the right thing there. Or, what I said probably was not true. I can do better, or, I can keep trying. And so I think that's okay too, because I know I found myself before having to go back and model for my girls something that I probably didn't model so well in the moment, but instead of just letting it go, addressing it. And then I really like your recommendation about like being intentional about things to celebrate, or things to what's going well, the praise moments. And we do something, the rosebud thorn, we try to do that at dinner every night. So your rose is you're sharing your positive, your thorn is what didn't go so well, and then your bud is something that you're working on or something that you're still trying. And so that's one way that we can take that time of connection and hear a little bit about what's going on in their day, but then also find out what are they struggling with, what's not going so well, things like that. So that's another idea to connect and see what's going on there too.
I'm going to take that idea, because we do peek and pit at our family dinner.
Yeah, I like that.
The rose with the bud, that adds kind of in between of, it's not a totally low, but you have middle ground. I love that idea.
Yeah. Okay, everybody write that down. That was a good one.
I'm taking that home. Yep. For kids who are naturally shy, more anxious, or hesitant, what are realistic ways to help build their confidence without pushing them too far out of their comfort zone? Bridget?
Well, one thing I want parents to do is stay away from labeling kids. Don't introduce your kid like, oh, this is my daughter. She's, really shy. Or, labels are for cans, not for kids. Let's avoid them if at all possible. And kind of with children who take some time to transition and to connect with people, I would say just be gradual about it. Little steps are good. All right. And go to their pace, not your pace, right? Accept their temperament, their focus, their ability, and practice is always good in a neutral place where the child is ready and they can build up their bravery skill, their bravery behavior. Even when they're not feeling brave, if they practice, they can pull that skill out when they need it, right? So again, don't label kids. Take us, easy go, step by step approach. Accept their temperament. Don't say, well, so and so down the street has plenty of friends. Why don't we try to make friends? If they're not ready, we go at their pace and then practice. What do you think, Allison? Some more tips that Junebug used in the book that you can share that she used when she was going to her new school?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you said is amazing. Every child is different, and what works for one isn't necessarily going to work for the other. So just starting small and supporting them where they are. And I love how you said where they're comfortable, finding areas where they're comfortable. I'm really big on play-based practice too. So like finding play opportunities or experiences where they can work on that or take on more of a leadership or more confidence, teaching. My girls love to play teacher. They're always playing store. They love to play store, things where they can make decisions and be in charge, and then kind of just fostering that, a little bit. But yeah, I think it's so important to just meet them where they are, go slow. We're not pushing them towards anything. I just don't think in the long run that would get as much growth as you would if you just, kind of let it naturally happen while still supporting and providing those opportunities.
Yeah. So good what you said. So good what you said about comparison, because especially in the day and age we live in where, we're not only just comparing ourselves as kids to Sally at recess, we're now comparing to people we're seeing on social media, especially going into those teenage years. And so I mean, that is so important, especially when we're in a world now where your confidence can be knocked even without someone even saying anything to you because you're in that game of comparison back and forth. So I'm glad we touched on that. Yeah. We've got a couple more questions here on our list. So if you have a question for Bridget or Allison, make sure you leave it in the comments. And of course, after this video, check out all the resources we have offered, including Allison's new book and the Boys Town Press and our Boys Town Parenting. So if a parent feels like their child's confidence has already taken a hit due to a tough experience and they're having kind of a hard time bouncing back from that, how can we work to help rebuild that? Allison, does the book have any tips that maybe models this?
Yeah, I think the book would be really helpful for this because there's so many different ideas, so many different coping skills. Again, it's all about supporting them and providing that support. But like we've talked about before, we got to let them overcome it, right? I mean, we want to be there without doing it for them. So I think the book gives a lot of great examples of different coping skills, different ways that we could support kids without maybe stepping in too much and letting them find that for themselves.
Yeah, I agree. I think parents are the scaffolding, right? The support scaffolding that kids need, but they're going to do the climb. We're going to be there to support them. And when they run against something that really kind of floors them, really makes them go, oh, wow, that really hurt, or that was really a struggle for me. It's really creating that safe base, that place at that I know nobody's going to judge me or put me down or act like, well, I'll do it for you, or those kind of feelings. And that kids do have the time, that we're not in a rush for you to solve this problem right away, and that they can take those small steps toward independence, that we are looking at their progress and not just their achievement, like Allison said, that we're there with them, not to view them from external benchmarks, right? But to celebrate, like she was saying, to recognize their own individual skills, their own interests, right? And that when they struggle in our presence, it's okay. We're here, and it's okay to struggle. That's how you learn, and that's how you eventually succeed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well said. Well said. One last question is, what would you both want parents to remember on the hard days when they feel like they're not doing enough to help build their child's confidence? Allison?
I think, first of all, give yourself grace because parenting is a roller coaster and, it's just a wild ride. So really remembering to give yourself grace and that we all, we're talking about confidence and setbacks, that applies to parenting too. So developing our own growth mindset and realizing that it's not like a start and stop, it's a continuous thing. And there'll be highs and really great moments, and then there'll be some not so great moments. But I think with connection, I think it's all about connection with kids. Mm-hmm. And again, obviously the love and support, but just being there for them. And sometimes we have to try lots of new things to get a result, or to get back on track. But that's okay. We'll keep trying. We'll keep going, and we're not giving up.
Hear, hear. I'm definitely with Allison on the idea that parents really will have to work on quieting their own negative internal thinking. And just taking some time to calm down, to be quiet, to be silent. Take just those few minutes. It just takes a few minutes a day to get to that place that Junebug got to, which I really loved in the book, where she doesn't focus on the problem, she focuses on the solution. That I feel anxious right now and I'm scared and I don't know anybody, but I'm going to take a deep breath, right? I'm going to slow things down to my own pace. So definitely, parents, take the time to connect with yourself, with your children. Don't look for perfection. Look for the connection. And I think when you pick up the book, when you come to a class, when you talk to your friends, when you take that moment for yourselves, you're going to be able to find more opportunities to build your own self-confidence as parents and to build your children's self-confidence as individuals and watch them really grow. So keep up the good work, everybody.
Yes, well said. Well, thank you both so much for sharing on this, and especially, to have you both on as not only parents of your own kids, but, experts in this field, counselors, authors, parenting trainers. It's just awesome to have kind of a roundabout look at this topic and many other topics that we cover here at Boys Town Parenting. And Allison, as you are always welcome back. We love having guests on.
Come on back, please do.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be a part of this.
Love it. Love it.
Great.
Well, thank you everyone so much for watching. I know I mentioned a few times, but we will have the resources and Allison's new book linked in the comments section for you to check out, and let us know what you think after you read it. And of course, sign up for a Boys Town Common Sense Parenting on our website. Just enter your zip code and we'll help you get set up. We'll talk to you next month.